Okay, we are live. Welcome to How to Build Your Own Home every Thursday from 5 to 6 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. We have a realtor here. That's weird. I'm pacing at this, but she's on my left-hand screen, but she's on my right-hand person. There she is. She's on my right. And general contractor with a lot of crazy experience in the trades. So if you have any questions regarding what our experiences are apt to help you with, please give us some questions. We are here for you. I want to start things off by giving an owner builder, a lot of owner builders, kind of a kickstart, if I can. A lot of people worry about when is the best time to build. Am I ready now, or I'm not sure about the world and the markets and all that kind of stuff. And my wife and I, we've been through several ups and downs with the economy. We experienced what it was like in the 2000 .com bust, even as far back as in 93. And there were a couple of years there in the mid 90s that were not that great.
2008 was the worst.
2008 was the worst. With that was really bad. I mean, we both had to just pack things up and move to another state to hopefully find some work. And then, of course, that carried over into 2010, 11. It was 2-3 years of just not really being able to move and get things going. And now we're looking at the uncertainty and that bubble, that problem in 2008 was basically washed over with a bunch of free money that was given during the COVID era. And that money just flooded the market. And we saw what happened there. Inflation just spiked. Lumber went through the roof. People were building. They were stuck at home, so they did a lot of projects at home. And the problem is that debt issue, that bubble has never really popped. We are now looking at $40 trillion in government debt. That's not counting the 200 trillion plus that we have in false derivatives. If you don't know what derivatives are, just watch the movie. What's that movie, that documentary movie? The Big Short. Yeah. Watch The Big Short, and that will really help you understand what was really happening during various times in the bubble. Anyway, a lot of that debt hasn't really popped. A lot of that has not been washed over. So what does that mean for owner builders? Well, it means that right now there's a concerted effort on the government side to bring manufacturing back to the United States. But in order to do that, guess what they have to do? They have to actually crash the dollar, meaning the dollar has to lose purchasing power. And by doing so, you now attract more industry and whatnot to the United States. Like, for example, you know that we make, they make processors and chips for all of our technology in Korea. Not Korea, but Taiwan. And so that got to be a scary thing. And so now the government is helping to get chips manufactured here in Arizona, of all places, to offset that dependency on Taiwan, which is kind of this is geopolitical stuff. But again, in order to bring that manufacturing and so much other manufacturing back, we have to actually drop our standard of living, and our dollar has to crash, which means inflation is going to spike. And I'm not a financial advisor, because I'm not telling you what to do with your money. I'm prognosticating based upon a lot of factors that I've been through as a builder. For example, it used to be very easy for builders 15, 20 years ago that all you had to do was look at the price of oil. What is the price of oil per barrel? That would tell what's the future price of oil. And that would tell you what a lot of other costs, lumber, distribution, manufacturing, a lot of other things would go into play on that. Now you really have to look at a lot of other factors. You have to look at where does the dollar stand? And we used to sell our dollars around the world in the form of U.S. securities. Now that's not the quote unquote best option to put and to park dollars. We still have a stronger currency than other nations, but those other nations are more frequently not buying the dollar. They're actually buying gold, they're buying silver, and they're actually bringing their own currency back home. Japan's doing that in a big way. I don't want to get into it too much. I just want to help you understand that if the dollar loses purchasing power, you will see it in the form of inflation. So that means that if you were thinking about building, let's say, for example, lumber goes up 28% or 31% from where it is now. That's what it was during the COVID high. That's where lumber was. And people don't remember that. What if it got worse? What if it doubled that to 50 or 54% gain increase from where it is now? That's perfectly feasible. So, what I'm trying to get you to think about is if you are on the path to build and you've always wanted to build and you've made steps to that path, you might even have some land. And I know a lot of owner builders that have already made that step and they're trying to pay off some land. Don't hold back on thinking things are going to be better in the future. I have a client I'm working with, and she was thinking about building, 3 years later. I said, no, don't do that. You'd actually pay a lot more. And I know she would pay a lot more because of inflation, even at 3 or 4%, is going to be at some point, it puts us and prices us out of getting a home. So be aware, it's not just oil anymore. It's so many other factors that go into play with regard to building a home. And just start typing in financial channels and listen to a lot of. My wife and I are friends with some really, really interesting ones. And maybe we can put a link to some of them at the bottom of this show. But be frosty, be aware what's going on, and don't assume things will be the way you want them to be when you're ready to build. Maybe you might need to be a little more ready sooner than you probably might think.
I do have to say that we had 3 students this week or last week or whatever, kind of get back involved in how to build. And they've been in like the First Steps program or just like a subscriber or anything. And now they finally have made the decision, okay, we have got to do it. And I think that has to, people are waking up.
Yeah.
Because we haven't had, it's only 3, but for us, that's a lot of students. 3 people in 1 week to realize, hey, we better get on the ball with this.
Yeah, I know students that purchased the program and then they come back and says, I had 2 children or this, and it kind of put us behind. Now we're back, we're ready to go. And we reactivate their access to the program. But a lot of students are just feeling the pressure. They're feeling the worry. They're feeling that if I'm going to do this and I'm going to have that piece of land and that home that I want to build for myself, for my family, now is a really good time to start. That's not financial advice. That's just good common sense, because I've been building now for 20 plus years, and I've seen prices increase exponentially at some points, but they always just increase. And so a lot of people, I know of a woman I'm building a home for now, and she still thinks in terms of 25 years ago, what the costs were 25 years ago. And this is a problem that owner builders will have. They will have in their mind what it was going to cost at a certain time, and it's no longer that factor. Like in the home we're in now, if we were to build it now, we'd probably pay another $75,000, $100,000 on the home. And these are realities that I just want you to be aware of.
And everybody's situation is different, and so you have to take your situation and look at it very carefully. And we are not opposed to promote, do a side hustle to make this happen, because you'll be happy that you did. I can't tell you how many things that we have going to make things happen. So
yeah, how to build your home is a side hustle.
We like to help people.
I help people, so it's worked out okay for us. Yeah. Anyway, we'll take some questions. I really wanted to give people just a little kick right there to be a kind of a reality check. And I know there's some people that wait around and wait and wait and wait and wait. They ponder and ponder and ponder. And as a result, it's a lot of the times, if they would have just acted. Don't wait for life to act upon you. You choose to act. That doesn't mean you have to take out a loan for $400,000. It means that if that opportunity to grab land is there and you can afford that and make that work, at least make that step, because you're actually building value and equity and you're moving in the right direction.
I do have to tell you that, so at my office, there was a middle-aged woman, young woman, and we just got to talking about dreams and goals. And over a few weeks, months, she wanted to build her own home, and she never even thought possible. But we were talking about dreams and goals, and so they ended up doing owner building, and they just moved into their home. I want to say a couple months ago, maybe the beginning of the summer, June, July. Time's going by fast, but they did it. I helped them sell their house, and then they rented for a little bit, and they had already purchased the land, and then they took a year to build it, and it's finished, and they got to move in. And so sometimes it's just a matter of, I have a dream, and let me talk to somebody about it, and let's move forward.
Yeah, start.
Yeah.
1 foot forward. Baby steps is really, keep that in mind. Whatever happened to Bob? Watch that movie. Baby steps, baby steps. Great movie. Let's take some questions real quick here and get going here. Ready?
Okay,
Oh, there we are. This is Honey Caffeina. What do you think of synthetic roof shingles? We can't do metal roofing because our property is so rural. We couldn't get cell service. That's interesting. Cell service.
Cell service because of a metal roof.
Yeah, there's a lot of synthetic, but if you did do one, the only one I would recommend is an architectural shingle, which is a synthetic, but it's an asphalt shingle. Just don't do 3-tab. 3-tab is that roof that always just blows off. It's 3 tabs. Just imagine 3 tabs. You put the roof on. Architectural is multiple layers. It's a layer on top of a layer. And sometimes there's even rigid, high-performance asphalt shingle roofs that have 2 and 3 different layers. They're very heavy. They set well on the roof, and they last a lot longer. So if you have to go a synthetic that way, just do what's called an architectural shingle, not a 3-tab shingle, and I think you'll be okay. Garnet Kaysen, if I do a crawl space on a house, but there's an attached garage, do I go ahead and pour garage slab with the footings, or do I wait to pour the slab later? Pour the slab later because you might be able to backfill into that garage. You're going to do the stem in the garage because that's part of the frost protection. You'll do the stem, and then stem will include the garage. And after that, backfill into the garage. But you want to try to see if you can do this without any steps, okay? Now, I want you to think in terms of, here's the house, here's the stem wall, and that stem wall goes all the way across that way. If you backfill just enough to a certain point, then you pour a 3.5, 4, 5-inch slab inside there. That could get you really close to being at level. But here's where it throws a lot of owner builders off. Once you have that foundation, that stem wall here, and it's the same height for the garage, you're suddenly going to put trusses on that stem wall. And those trusses could be as high as 18 inches, which means you're now going to have steps coming up to your home. So talk to the truss plant, and if you have at least a 4-foot stem wall, then you can do what's called a top cord bear. Those trusses, those floor joists, can sit down inside the footing, not the footing, but the stem wall, thereby dropping your level, your elevation of your home really close to the elevation of your garage. Just keep in mind, you want to try to get that elevation as close as you possibly can. I've done it so I'm barely 2-3 inches off, so I slope the concrete right up to it, and it's a nice gradual walk. So there's no steps. I just did a mountain home. The whole main floor, 3-car garage, massive main floor with a huge deck, all on one level. It takes a little time. Talk with your excavator, ask them about backfilling and excavation, and if they can lift that up and stuff like that. Also watch your front porch entry, because a lot of times with the stem wall, you stick that stem wall so high up, and then when you throw the trusses on top of it, you suddenly have all these steps you weren't planning for. So that's the only problem is that stem walls have an elevation issue. If you don't watch it and see where your things are going to land, you can be really off. That's why slab on grade is really kind of nice if your frost protection allows it, because once you set that grade and you pour that slab, boom, you're at elevation. And the neat thing is the garage is very easy to hit that elevation perfectly, so you have no steps. I'm a 0 threshold guy, so I build as best I can without any thresholds, showers included. Great question. Analog digital 53. I have some light drywall compound stuck to the window and door casings. What do you recommend for removing it without damaging the casing? Water. It will dissolve in water. Don't try to scratch it or scrape it off, because you could actually hit the vinyl or metal or whatever it is on the window. It should come off with water, and it takes a sponge a couple of times and you'll be able to get it off really easy. If it's a big chunky piece, you can get a little screwdriver and just tap it and it will bust off in pieces and come off. And then you rub off the residue with a damp cloth. But if it depends on how big it is. If it's big, you can carefully chip it off and not damage anything, or just wipe it off with a wet sponge. Good question.
Just a shout out. Glad you can make it.
Yeah.
Glad you're working on your build.
There we go. Finally have some downtime.
Okay, let's go.
Okay, Michael Libinitsky. For a crawl space foundation, is a drain pipe around foundation always required, or only when drainage is a concern? Really good question. If I could see your elevations and your soils and look at how the foundation was going to set, I could make a really good call on that. But you're not going to be wrong by putting in drain pipes anyway. If you have them put in fact, you don't even need to put them in right now. You just can build the home, grade everything appropriately. When you have the outside done, then you can have the rain gutter guy come, put the rain gutters on, and then put your drainage up to the rain gutter and capture that and redirect it wherever you want. Like this home has 8 downspouts, 8, actually more when you conclude the upstairs and all that, but 8 downspouts. And all of those downspouts are going to the creek to the west of us. And with all the roof we have, it drains right into there. So I don't have any settling. I don't have any water issues. We had a water issue on a home in St. George this morning. It's all because of, again, the downspouts were draining right there where the foundation is. And as a result, it can get into your foundation. So stem walls are not as prone to a problem as a basement. If you're in a basement, yes, you want to get that water away from the home as best as you possibly can. And if you're in expandable soils, for sure, get that water away from the foundation of the home. And if you can, put a skirt around the home, a concrete skirt. You can do 2 feet, 24 inches, or 36 inches, 3.5 feet, whatever you want. If you can skirt that home and tie that skirt into the foundation with rebar, that's really going to protect your foundation. It's really nice. Just make sure that if you have downspouts come down, you put in a drain before they pour the concrete. So I have a concrete skirt on a backside of a home. Maybe I should do a video on this. And I had that poured after I put the downspouts. So I have water, literally tons of water, exiting the roof, down the downspouts, leaving the property, and going into a gully. And I have a client that says, "Can I capture that water?" I go, let's build the house first, and we'll talk about how you can capture all that rainwater. Sometimes it's legal, sometimes it's not legal in your state. But he has enough water coming in that downspout. Any light rain, it's coming right off the roof, and it's easily captured. So that's how powerful keeping water away from the home is. Now you have an opportunity to store it. And it's much easier with a metal roof, by the way. If you try to store it with an asphalt shingle roof, you're going to get all that grit coming down into the downspout and down into your cistern system. So that's why I'm not a fan of asphalt shingle roofs. That's one of the reasons.
There we go.
Okay, David Parker. Would an omni-block wall inside the house, such as for a bathroom, a shower, sauna, require footers to set upon? Or is that only needed for what carries the house load above it? Yeah, I would put footers in. You only need a shovel footing because that wall is pretty heavy. And you're going to probably put some concrete in the cells to help reinforce that wall for shear strength. So a shovel footing is only like a square shovel, and it's about 9 inches down, maybe 6 inches, not that much. And a lot of times they'll put shovel footings underneath stairs. because the stairs they have a lot of weight to stairs, or they'll put a shovel footing on a wall that's somewhat structural, but not entirely a lot. But yeah, don't do that without some sort of simple shovel footing. And that's, imagine your pad is ready to be poured. You've got your rebar in there, and then there's this little section where there's a shovel footing, and it's all poured at the same time. You can put some rebar in that shovel footing, and that's going to help out quite a bit as well. Just 2 sticks of number 3 rebar should be fine.
Okay, so we have 2 honey capping that has kind of 2 commodities.
Okay, remind me on these here I printed up that we'll get to later on.
Okay.
Honey, we are seeing the increased prices during our build. We are having an ADU behind the garage, then move into that, sell our current home, and use the cash to build a house. Yeah.
Okay. And then
Now, I am concerned that the sale of current house will not be able to cover the cost of the new house.
it's always good to get a loan because we are seeing prices of homes go down a bit.
Yeah. Selling a home is if you sell it for the price you want now, that's pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
But if there's a way just to have a loan to be safe, you might not have to tap into it. What do you think?
or just slow down.
Okay.
And if you're already living in the ADU and you're able to do that,
I think we're gonna-
then just you can slow down a little bit so you can cash flow it appropriately.
Yeah, that's good. Yep, cash flow it.
So, and that would help avoid a loan because interest rates are what, close to 6% now?
Oh, above 6.
Above
almost 7.
6%.
Mhm.
So that's just something to watch out for, folks. It's not just oil and interest rates. It's everything else I discussed earlier. So watch your cash flow, watch what you can do over time. That's why I say quality time cost, all right? Cost is really the last thing I look at. I look at the quality. Is it going to fulfill my needs? Is it lasting? Is it well built? Then time. Now, am I in a rush? No, I'm not in a rush. So therefore I can take my time.
Yeah.
And by that concept of time is the pendulum between cost and quality. Time is, if you really think about it, that's the deciding factor on what direction to go. Just consider that. For example, if you've got a home and they just sold it at top dollar, and you're like 4 weeks out from finishing your home, you now start saying, "Okay, let's get it done. I'll spend that. That's fine. Get it done." Because now time is the deciding factor. But if you don't have that issue and your home is listed, and but you're living in a trailer, then time is not as pressing as it now. Hey, they want to move in it next month. So when you start thinking about the value of time appropriately, and owner builders this is the thing they just don't see at all. Production builders, it's all about time. They want that home built in 3-4 months. They want it on the market. No questions asked. Time is of the essence because they're in a market situation. And it's no different from an owner builder because I've seen owner builders take 2-3 years to build a home, and they did a lot of it themselves. And yet when you really look at the cost benefit analysis, you say to yourself, oh my goodness, I could have made more doing my regular job. And I can see that they enjoy it. This is their creation. I can understand that drive. But at the same time, they're not weighing the real value of time. So there you go. Being a owner builder and managing it, that's the best use of your time. But trying to install insulation, that's the worst use of your time. So don't be a DIY biscuit head.
But
Okay.
that's great. You have that type of a plan that you can build the casita and live in that. I mean, and then sell the house.
Yeah.
And just to let you know, the markets, at least in our area, this summer, it was the weirdest market ever. It was a weird market. So hopefully this fall, things will pick up and be better for sellers. Buyers right now, they can get a good deal. Okay, I'm not sure what he means by this. Michael says BOJAC series soil, well draining. So do you know, he was up here.
Yeah.
Crawl Space Foundation.
I'm trying to find where I got lost here. That's not it.
Yeah, that was it. Right there.
There we are.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hello. There we are. BOJA series soil, well draining. You still don't want that water puddling up against the foundation. So, so if you can drain away from that, all the better. Even if it's expandable or collapsible soil, just regular clay soil, just try to keep the water away from the foundation. Concrete is porous, folks. Okay. So I just had some friends build a swimming pool, and they had high water table, which means that they dug 3 feet down and they found puddling of water. So they had to get a sump pump and pump out the water to allow them to dry it off so that they could put in the swimming pool. As soon as they got the swimming pool in, they turned the pump off, the sump pump, and all that water came back up to the pool. And is that good? No, because there's concrete underneath, but 2 to 3 inches in is rebar. So that concrete's going to get wet. The rebar is going to get wet. It's going to rust. That pool is not going to last very long at all. And so, again, keeping water away from the foundation is imperative because you have rebar in there. And if you have that moisture constantly against that concrete, it's going to do a number. Go by the bridges, especially in your cold climates where you get some snow and bridges that are very old. Be aware of that and look at where the concrete spills or peels away from the structure, and you can see the rebar exposed. Invariably, that rebar started to rust before the concrete split away. That's because there's constant moisture in that area, water draining off, hitting that piece of concrete over and over again, freezing temperatures, thaw, freeze, thaw, freeze, thaw. That does a number on concrete. So keeping water away from concrete is probably the best maintenance thing you can do to make that home lasting. Okay. Garnet, did I say that right? Garnet, Kason? I live in Columbia, South Carolina, climate zone 3A, warm, humid. If I have a crawl space, can I run HVAC under the house for good efficiency instead of mechanical room condition space? You can even hang it if it's a high. I should do a video on this. I have a HVAC we just installed. We hung it from the floor joists, and we have like a 4.5, almost a 5 foot crawl space. So, but keep in mind, because of the humidity, keeping that crawl space dry is going to be kind of imperative. If you try to seal that off, you're going to run into a problem. You might want to talk with your local building official and ask them how they recommend ventilating that crawl space, because you're in warm, humid, and that humid is the deciding factor. Making sure things dry off, and that means air movement, folks. Okay. If you have moisture in a wall and and it's piling up, cold condensing surface, then you got a problem. So you keeping it out of the walls and making sure the house is drying off is going to be key. Boy, I could talk forever about water. David Parker, how much does it cost to add color to a cement load, such as to give cement's gray color a green tint to come out as an olive hue? Can those be evaluated in small volumes? You can. It's about $80 to $120 to tint an entire truckload, which is about 9.5 yards of cement. It could be more, it could be less. Sometimes it's per yard. And what they do is they have a little batch of tint paint, and that batch of paint will take care of maybe a yard or so. I can't remember the ratio, but you'll want to find out how much, and you can talk to the batch plant about this, and you can find out how much it would take to tint a whole, because most trucks can carry between 9 and 10.5 yards of cement. That's the max. Okay, so if you've got a load that's 30 yards, then that's 3 truckloads. So you can figure out the cost from there and then talk to the plant and say, hey, I want to do the leather brown tint you have, and I'm figuring I need about 21 yards. What will that cost? And please put it inside the mix. Pour it wet set. Don't try to tint the top of your concrete. It never stays. It weathers pretty quick, especially because it doesn't get down deep enough. You want it inside the wet mix, and you'll be much better off for it. I did a home years ago, and I should do a video of it. And we did a leather look, and it has brown and purples mixed into it. Came out really nice.
You also did that multi-generation home that you got to see that it was the concrete.
Yeah, that was a polished one, and that
didn't have color.
Yeah, that didn't have any color in it. So if you're going to do color, don't try to do it after the fact. Do it at the pour and find out what it costs per yard to tint it, and then figure out how many yards you need. A yard is 3 feet by 3 feet by 3 feet. That's a yard, and that will tell you what the cost will be. And if you're just doing a concrete floor, it would be really nice because to give that a tint and then a clear coat on top of it, it's going to look really great. Okay, make triathlon great again. I like that. They just finished pouring the concrete, the cement for foundation. It's been 2 weeks. I noticed small hairline cracks on some areas of the footings. It's a crawl space foundation. What should I worry? When should I worry?
Could they put rebar in?
It's the foundation only. Okay. You're going to see concrete crack. It's not a matter of it. It's a matter of when. It's just the nature of concrete. And the hairline crack is not a problem, especially if it's just in the footing. You've got rebar in there, right?
She says for the foundation.
It's a crawl space foundation. What should I worry about? So it's a concrete submission for foundation. So I'm assuming you've only got the footings poured right now.
They just finished pouring the concrete, the cement for foundation.
Yeah, so I'm assuming it's just the footings only. Now, if you're doing this is for a crawl space foundation. Now that footing is going to be between 10 and 12 inches thick. It's going to have a spread of maybe 24 inches on the max, sometimes shallower, sometimes wider, but depending on soils report. They're going to put a stem wall on top of that, and then they're going to put rebar in that. Okay. I very rarely see that crack. The reason why you see a lot of old foundations crack is because they really were skimpy on the rebar, and they didn't treat the soils right. Geotech engineering has come a long way. It used to be you dig a hole, you dig for footings, you pour your concrete, and you didn't compact anything. Nowadays, with a lot of jurisdictions, they require a geotech report and compaction tests. So before you pour your footings, did you get a compaction test for that footing? And if you passed, then you're good to go. And what I tend to do is I tend to put 6 inches of road base underneath the footing, and I compact that. That gives me real stability for that footing. But even so, I will still see some hairline cracks. So don't let that worry you. If you saw a separation like this, and it's like a 1/2 inch crack, that would be a worrisome thing. If you saw a separation like that, but nothing was higher or lower on the other side, I would kind of worry a little bit about that. But the hairline cracks, I wouldn't. That's just the way concrete is. And for those interested, if you really want to slow that down and control some of that, you can mix fiberglass into the batch that comes to be ready to be poured. That fiberglass works in the concrete. That's a little bit of a help to control some and create a little bit more strength in the whole foundation. So good question. Leanne. I'm having issues with HVAC. I have limited space for ducting. I was considering a mini split system, but I have to figure out how to do the fresh air venting. Do you have any suggestions? Why do you need fresh air venting? That's why I'm asking. I don't know what kind of climate zone you're building in. So that would be my first question. If you're looking at venting for your stove and venting for your bathrooms, I can understand that. But mini splits are a great solution. They don't have any moisture buildup like you would see with a swamp cooler or something like that. So that's where you might need some fresh air venting. But other than that, the mini splits are really great. Look at the ceiling cassette systems. Those are less intrusive. They're not on the wall. You go to South America and you see the mini splits all over the place on the wall. And they're not fun to clean. Let me tell you, they're a pain. They look kind of trashy over time. And so the cassette systems can be the same, but you have to really keep them clean. And there's more maintenance with mini splits. However, they fit through the frame structure really nicely, and they solve problems, and they allow you to shut off major parts of the home and not have to heat the entire home. Or you do a combination. If you're doing something like 2,500 square feet and there's 2 bedrooms upstairs, you can do those mini splits and put the rest of it in forced air. So sometimes a combination helps. So I don't know the design, the size of the home you're building, But I hope these kind of thoughts kind of help you out.
Okay, Parker Nash.
Parker Nash. Hello, I've been busy building, but watch the recordings. Rained out today. Meeting stone, stucco, plaster installers tomorrow. Any specific questions to ask? Installing onto something similar to OmniBlock. Yes, the stucco guys are going to need to treat that with a product, and it's a synthetic glue, and it looks very similar to Elmer's glue, but it's thinner. They're going to either put it into the gray coat, or they're going to put it directly on the product, meaning they'll put it right onto the CMU wall if that's what you're doing. I don't like to apply it directly because they're lazy and they don't get it fully coated. I like it embedded into the mix. So you got an even coat. That way, when they press it on there, it's getting a uniform coverage throughout the CMU wall. But talk with the stucco guy about that. Mason is also going to need the same thing. He's going to probably need a scratch coat. And I'm not sure, you'll have to talk with the stucco guy if he can do the scratch coat so you can put the rock right on there. But again, there's a synthetic requirement to keep that, to increase the bonding to the CMU wall. I've had to do that with OmniBlock wall. I've had to treat it with that product because you're not, for example, you don't have a wire mesh. Okay, there's no lath. A lath is the wire mesh. So a regular stud home and frame, you got your paper and then you got your wire mesh, and you just squish in your gray coat or your scratch coat, and that wire mesh is helping hold that entire structure to the wall structure. When you don't have that wire mesh, you've got to have a really good bonding agent that gets right into the CMU or OmniBlock wall. It's really concrete to concrete. This concrete over here is the wall. It's already cured. It's dried out. I'm going to put some regular cement to it, but if I don't have something bonding agent, it's not going to stick as well. So.
That's a good question.
Okay, honey caffeine. Our property has an extreme high water table. We had 5 ponds dug, and I wish I had a pond on my property, and an 8-foot deep ditch. We can't build a basement. Our problem is where to put the water from a French drain. Septic tank, no. Do not put water into your septic system. You're going to flood it out.
No, she's asking where to put the water from the French drain and where to put the septic tank.
Or where to put the septic tank? Well, I'm a former English teacher. So the last question implies, do I put it in the septic tank?
Oh,
No. So the septic tank on that property is going to be the highest location. It's going to be a shallow system. And there's going to be a lot of gravel underneath that system. So talk with your geotech. They will know exactly where best to put that. But as far as the French drain, you can. I just did this on a property where there's tons of moisture. And when we dug out the property, we found tons and tons of boulders, 2-inch, 5-inch, 2-foot boulders. And we didn't want to haul them off. So we dug a big pit in the backyard. I mean, a huge pit. It must have been 15 feet in diameter. And we took all the clean fill out of that and we dumped all the boulders in there. And now we ran 2 rain gutters right into it. And it takes a really, 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 really heavy storm to start to see it puddle up into the grass. And then, but you have a place for it. Our soils up where we are very porous and they drain pretty quickly. So after the rainstorm, you can see that it's gone pretty quickly. So you may not have that luxury, but you might have an opportunity like that. If you're a few feet above and you're having some drainage and you've got a pit over here somewhere, you can move all boulders and rocks to it and use that as a quote unquote makeshift French drain. All it is it's a way for you to redistribute water so it has time to percolate. You don't want it percolating against your foundation. You want it percolating back into the soil away from the foundation. Just getting away from the foundation is going to serve you the best. And let it percolate naturally that way.
Yeah, it sounds like they're doing a lot. Because if they already have 5 ponds dug and an 8-foot deep ditch, wow, you've got lots of water.
Yeah.
Wow.
They're probably back east somewhere.
Okay.
Okay. JD Istkamp. I hope I said that right. Is solar panels required for a detached ADU in California? Thanks. I don't know. That is a really good question. I don't think so, because that would impose too much burden on family, and I wouldn't, as a lawgiver, force that on people.
And
So
in our area, it doesn't make sense. And we have 300 days of sunshine. The cost of solar panels it's not beneficial for us.
yeah. Okay. David Parker, what roof pitch makes most sense to you? Nothing below 712 and nothing over 912. So it's a very, very thin margin. 712 is ideal. It sheets off fast, but it's also easy to get access on the roof. You can walk on the roof. Once you get to 812 and 912, it's really hard to walk on the roof. You can never get on the roof. If it's a metal shingle, forget it. All right. If it's an asphalt shingle, you can probably walk in an 812, maybe 912. Once you get over that, it's really brutal. So 712 is my ideal, because I don't like a shallow pitch roof, because that increases potential of slow extraction of water. And the longer water is sitting on the roof, the more opportunity you have of it backtracking and getting into the structure of a home. So I love, and even with my crickets and dead valleys, I try to keep them as steep as I possibly can. Once you get below 412 pitch and you get below that to like a 312 pitch, you're talking about a totally different roof. You're talking about a total membrane protection, TPO or something else, where you have a complete membrane of protection. No shingles that are pounded through the roof with nails where you could have a possible leak. So 712 is my ideal pitch.
Cool. Okay, this is a 3-part, and I have comments to say.
3-part question. And that's coming from a roofer's perspective, not just the builder's perspective.
Okay,
Resto 56. We have been thinking of going back home and came across a lot in Cedar City since we don't
go all the way up to Salt Lake.
All the Salt Lake.
It says that it is zoned for R3M. What would be the best thing to do? Single home with ADU, duplex, triplex, or go with the 4plex? And it's a 1/4 acre, it looks like.
I just wonder where that is.
I know. So there's different things that you need to be aware of in Cedar City. Soils, they do have some areas with some bad soils, and flooding. So make sure you check that out. But back to what to build on a 1/4 acre. Do you remember what R3M is? Residential. We'll have to look it up for Cedar. Residential, is that for a triplex?
Medium density, multi-family residential, and mixed residential.
So can they do it? Ideally, if you can afford it, put in, if it's a triplex or a 4plex, if it's a triplex, build the triplex, live in one, and have the 2 rents pay for your mortgage. Like, that's ideal. And especially if this is your first home, like, that's how you get started, is to have, like, it's brilliant if you can do that. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm not a fan of 4plexes, only because they never look pretty. They're just, you're in a different part of town when you're dealing with 4plexes. If you're in a residential part of the neighborhood and it's all mostly residential, you're going to want to try to do something where you have a home and an ADU, or a home and 2 ADUs, and they're very well buried, and it's not obstruction.
Well,
I did a video, go back to the Gardner home we did in Washington, and look at the plan on that. You can't even tell that there's 2 ADUs on that home.
It's a multi-gen. I think I registered it as a multi-generation home.
Yeah, it's a multi-generational home. And I think you can look at the footprint of that for our house plans at how to build your own home.
Oh yeah.
Just check it out there.
There are house plans for that.
If you can do that, it's going to be an attractive home. It's going to have an appeal, a wonderful curb appeal, and you're still going to have basically 3 units. I'm just not a fan of the 4th because it changes the game on everything.
Well, they might not have that.
You may not even have that.
Depends on the size of your lot,
Yeah.
how wide, how deep, what you could do. But it gives you an idea
Yeah.
of how you can have some ADUs. But if the city doesn't allow 2 ADUs, well, yeah, you probably need to go into the city and ask them, can I have a triplex on this? Or can I have 2 ADUs? Just to verify from them that you can do it, and then start planning. But definitely check soils and flooding area for Cedar City. 'Cause a lot of people just don't know that there is flooding and bad soil pockets.
Yeah. Let me get to these real quick.
Okay.
I got some. I totally forgot. I printed them out. I just want to get to these questions real quickly. This is from Steve, and he says, "Hi Keith. When getting a construction loan, you need to supply a budget at some point. How do you get budget numbers without putting the project out to competitive bids for each and every phase of the build to come up with a total loan amount?" Really, really good question. That's why the first steps is there. When you go through the module, the first steps module, it will tell you, and if you do it 3 and 4 times, it will tell you the cost per square foot to build in your particular area.
It'd be an estimate.
So it's an estimate. But here's what you do, okay? When you go to the bank, you take that budget that's in the self-managed course, you take that budget and you plug in numbers and you come up with a total that is equal to the total cost to build in your particular area. Now that's going to have some padding. It's going to have a builder fee. It's going to have a realtor fee. It's going to have all these other things that you're going to inject in there. Take that to the bank and include all those fees. Okay. You're trying to qualify for an amount. You will know inside, if you're smart, that you won't need that full amount. And so that's how you go about it. You have to use the first steps course, that module number 3, and you do that several times, and it'll give you a really good break point of where the cost per square foot is. Now you use that cost per square foot and you plug in some numbers and you see, okay, it's coming close. I need to add some more money there. And you just distribute that. And if you want, I do a consult. And if you want, I can look at the budget and kind of help you, look at things like that.
It might be helpful to get the big bids.
Yeah, I talked about this last week. And if you're doing some bids, it's nice to get the concrete foundation, excavation, framing package, framing labor, windows, stuff like that, getting those numbers. And if you're really solid on those numbers, that's fine. That helps you even more.
You just want to pad it. You want to put in as much as you can, but don't use that. You want to pad it.
Yeah. Padding is the secret weapon.
And hopefully you're good. Hopefully one of you is really good and knows that it's padded. And if one is not good, and let me just give you some, maybe your wife's like, I really want this in my kitchen and you budgeted it, don't let her know it's padded. And keep to the budget. I don't know. Yeah. It all depends on if it's just you doing it or if you're doing it together and how you guys work together. But back to the bank. Sorry.
I'll give a piece of advice. If there's a couple doing this, for the person I'm going to speak to that is running the budgets and doing the estimates, the other person that's just going to run the job site, you need to close your ears for a minute. Okay. The person's running the budget. I want you to practice the secret dot. The secret dot is you put a dot into those line items where you've added 3 or 4 or 5%, but don't tell the other person that. All right. They're working off the budget that they see, but they don't know about the secret dot. So not only
there will be emergencies,
but there will be emergencies.
Always.
So you'll have a 10% contingency overall on the entire build. That goes without saying, and most lenders are going to ask for that. Some might be okay with 7 or 5 or 6%. But once you get below that 7 or 8%, you're running the risk. That's why you need to have the secret dot. And in my budget, when you watch the video, I show you where to put those additional contingencies, and you will be comfortable and not stressed. So when you want to make sure that what you're asking for is what you really need in the event of this, and that. Now you may say, I'm going to save. Great, save. You won't need that, but you want to have enough in the potential that if this and that happens. The worst thing that happened, I worked for a nonprofit sector for housing, and all the homes that were built before me, they were 16, 18, 21,000 over budget because they never established the right budget from the get-go. And these families had second mortgages, and that was not fun. When I came over, I employed the secret dot. My CEO did not know it, but I knew it inside myself, and it saved the day. And
but you want to, if you can get as many bids as you can to put in the budget, that's better.
Right. Okay, really, that's a question. This is from Samuel. He says, I was wondering if you have a CRM you recommend for a small residential builder GC. That's a really good question. I was talking with my son about this, and he wants to move how to build to a complete app. But I was trying to build a technology years ago that would solve this very question. Maybe someday I'll still build it. We'll know, but I don't have a current CRM system.
CRM, all we do is spreadsheets
Yeah.
right now. And they run multiple jobs, and it's just on a spreadsheet.
Okay, last question so we can get back to your questions. This one here is from Jeff, and he writes, he said some nice stuff about us. And then he says, I'm a newly licensed general contractor in the state of Georgia, and my first project is building my own home. I purchased 5 acres back in 2019. See, this is forward thinking. I already have house plans. I previously had all permits in place, although they have since expired, which is not a problem. You can re-up those every 6 months. And I'm currently have temporary power and water on the site. I'm also a veteran and have the option to use a VA construction to a permanent loan. My question is this: how should I approach this project so that I can properly receive credit for my first build as a GC builder on record? Okay, really good question. A lot of states require a certain number of hours or years or whatever to go forward and to qualify you as a GC. All right. You build the home under an LLC, and the LLC then pays you, and you can just pay yourself $1, but you're tracking hours. Okay. Check with your state office, ask them how many hours and how to document those hours. And so you're now going to document them with your own LLC, right? And then that LLC can draft a letter and document it. But they're going to probably want pay stubs. When I first applied, I had to show 4 years, okay, 2 of which had to be in a supervisory role, and I had to document those 2 years with pay stubs. It's not that rigid now. A lot of states have gone a little more lax because they'd rather get more people in the trades than less. So find out from your state, and ask them. You can call your state. It's called Department of Building, whatever, and ask them, and they can give you the real direction. Okay, really good question.
That's a really good question, because we do have a lot of students that build their home and then become GCs. So
okay, now I can take some questions again.
Okay. So, Crawl Space Foundation.
Michael Lebinitsky, Crawl Space Foundation question: for mid-beam span to support trusses, Mason is saying a continuous footing is preferred over 24 by 24 post footers due to settling shifting. Worth the extra cost? Well, it's going to block you out, meaning that if you put a full wall support in there, you're not going to be able to crawl underneath the whole thing. It's going to lock you out. That's the biggest problem with crawl spaces, is that they'll span that. Now, if your trusses or floor joists are sitting on top of that foundation, then you can easily put a beam structure underneath there to capture that. I wouldn't worry about settling issues, because I should show you a picture of a home I have over here where we have 24 by 24 inch spot footings, 10 inches thick, and then we have a saddle in the middle of those, and then we have a nice 8 by 8 beam going up and supporting that beam all the way across. So I wouldn't do a full, what he's asking for is a full mason wall on there. I wouldn't do that. You want to be able to get access under the whole stem wall, and just talk with your engineer about it. And if you don't have an engineer, to ask him what he'd recommend, but tell him you want full access underneath the crawl space. You don't want to seal it off.
This is a good question.
Garnet Kasen, what are 5 jobs you recommend owner builders do if they have the ability? Example, not doing insulation, but laying floor. Cleaning is first of all, because it's going to set the tone throughout the entire job. Nobody can get away with garbage.
Can you also tell them that maybe even hauling, if you have a trailer, leaving a trailer there and taking it to the dump, see what rules, because like here, it saves you $450 a load.
Yeah. I have a little dump trailer, and as a builder, it's served me well. And it has a little button, and I can press it, and it dumps it for me when I go to the landfill.
Cleaning.
We use that on a lot of miscellaneous jobs, but if I have a dump company come and drop off a dumpster, that's $350 to $475 a pop every time it's hauled off. If I was in Los Angeles County, that's going to be a double that, if not triple. So you have to say to yourself, the dump trailer is about $6,500 or $8,500. When I'm done, I can probably resell it, or if not, I can have my own little haul off trash business.
Yeah, that's big business.
So you have to ask yourself. That's why before I build something, like if I had 3 jobs lined out and they're going to all break ground, I would sit down with my daughter. Do we need any tools or what have you? For example, when I had this home lined out plus 2 others, I went ahead and bought a track hoe. All right, that track hoe has paid for itself over many other jobs, but I had it lined out so that I knew I could pay it off real quick. So you have to look at that, and you're building a home that's going to be several $100,000. Is there a way that I can acquire a tool that could help with the job, save costs, but maybe sell it at the end of it and still make money off of it? So these are small little side hustles you have to think about, and once you put those things together, you're on your way. I've seen so many owner builders create little side hustles. You're hiring 38 to 46 different subcontractors to build something for you. It's more than likely you're going to learn something about them that you might like that skill set, and you might want to continue with that skill set.
Yeah, that's like Mackenzie. The first home that she helped with, she was in there with the tile guy. She'd come in and she's like, okay, teach me. I want to learn this. So she helped do tile. And then she went to another trade. Okay, I'm really curious. Help me learn this. Not only did the guys like it because she was helping, but she learned the ins and outs of it. And then she found what she liked.
Right.
But 5 things. So we have cleaning, flooring, anything else?
Cleaning, flooring. And now if you have a skill set that's particular, like laying flooring or something like that, do it. But if you don't have that skill set, I saw an owner builder, I helped him take him to 7-way inspection on his home, but he took over the tile and he tried to install his own tile. And this is a guy with a lot of handyman experience. And he put the red guard on, and the whole shower leaked right in through the kitchen. And so now that's a huge cost with the drywall guy having to come and do all the repairs. So you don't want to do something where you could risk yourself additional costs. And that's why I like, for example, I like doing landscaping on my own homes, and I can take my time. Stuff, dirt work to me, I can't screw it up. It's very hard to screw it up. But if you know how to operate heavy machinery, that's a big cost savings. And so you have to weigh what you can do and what you really can't do.
Okay,
So,
we have lots of questions. I just realized with the time, honey.
Yeah.
Sorry, you guys. We're just having a good time with you. That's good.
Alexa, I am planning 24 by 36 garage. Want to have attic storage. What is a better truss or regular lumber roof system to maximize space? Does anybody have a way to answer that question? If you know me and you've been listening to me, you should know the answer to that. The answer is attic trusses.
Attic trusses.
Just type in on any search engine attic trusses, and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about.
And you'll have more than 5 feet.
You'll have a ton more feet, and it's going to be very affordable. Look in our YouTube channel and just type in our YouTube channel, attic trusses with how to build your own home. And there's several posts there, and you will see what they are all about. Okay. Good question. Please talk about, this is from Christine. Talk about the process from breaking ground to concrete pour, including rough timeline, walkout basement with concrete foundation walls on 3 sides for a 1,300 square foot footprint in Northwest Missouri. Really good question. Your excavation and geotech are going to excavate it, and they're going to get down to, I don't know if the footings are going to be dug or formed at that elevation. You have to talk with your excavator and your concrete guy and say, where do you want to start the footings? You want to dig them into the ground and pour to a certain level, which is kind of hard to do, or do you just want to form it up? And a lot of guys, because of accuracy, they just want to form up the footing, and the bottom of that footing becomes the bottom of the total build. And so once you have that figured out, and then they pour their footings, then immediately they can come and pour or build their foundation walls, have it inspected, footing inspection, rebar inspection, compaction test. Once all that's done, foundation walls get put in, another inspection for all the rebar. But keep in mind, when they put those foundation walls, they're going to need 3 feet beyond the footing so they can walk around on that. Don't think that they can just set the footings or the foundation walls from the inside only. They need to walk around that entire structure. Once that's poured, you need to wait at least 30 days before you backfill. If it's green and like 15 days later and it's still green, you don't want to backfill. You want to wait. And this is a waiting period. This is where you're not going to do anything. You can probably start the framing structure on top. I've always allowed guys, but it's unsafe because there's that open trench between the walkout basement concrete and the dirt over here. There's like a 3 foot, and they put lumber and they walk across it like a big, huge bridge or something. But you're going to have a period of time where you can't backfill against that. And that's a good time to put drainage in there and all that, and get your cement coating on there, your black tar, and get that all cured. But again, some guys don't want to do that until it's not green anymore because it's not going to bond right. So that's the point where I want to get going, but you're having to wait for it to be cured. And sometimes concrete guys will not let you get on that and start framing on it until they say you cannot start framing on it until this date. And you cannot backfill until this date. And if you do it before then and something happens, they're not liable. Okay? Good question.
Okay, the Mall Pearl, Western Washington build, garage door installed today. Yay! That's exciting. Painting happening now. Oh my goodness. So excited to come see it come together. Thank you for your course. Grateful student here. Yeah, if I remember, she's in her 60s with her son.
Yeah. And they're building the home together. And we've seen pictures of it. It's phenomenal.
It is.
We're really excited about that. So.
I wasn't sure on your age, so that's why I questioned. I know who you are. I just wasn't sure. But we're just so proud of you.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go.
Parker Nash, speaking of reusing boulders, have you used the large ones to build small retaining walls? Yes, I have, but I've actually used a boulder as a support footing for a pier.
Oh, yeah.
It was like 7 feet by 8 feet. It was so massive, I couldn't move it. I had a big excavator come in and he couldn't move it. And I said, that's a nice boulder. It's staying right there.
And you had the engineer too.
My engineer stamped it. He says, okay, I want 6 pieces of rebar going in a foot, and I want it epoxy, and I want a special inspection. So the third party had to come up and inspect it as we installed the rebar with epoxy. Once that was all done, that part of the house that is not going anywhere.
Not moving anywhere.
Not going anywhere. So
okay, here we go.
Good question. Having any caffeine, heavy clay soil. People say 100 years ago, our area was part of Lake Erie, one of the Great Lakes of Michigan. Yep. And you've got all that small clay, that particulate clay that came off of the glaciers. And it's like pure mineral. All right. You might have some boulders once in a while, but not really. It's mostly just clay. If it's the right clay, it will compact harder than you can shake a stick at.
Okay. Sorry, man. I guess it's more conversation. Let's see here. This is more honey.
Yes, it's not a floodplain. It's just southeastern Michigan. All of our homes have been in high water table, but the current build is making us think more. Yeah. And just as a piece of advice, if your home is at least a foot above the crest of the local street where you're driving into your home, that's the minimum. Some places I push for a maximum of 2 to 3 feet, like in Florida and Louisiana, Biloxi, Mississippi, some places on the coast. If you're too shallow, just go to the graves in Louisiana. Nothing is buried in the ground. They're all above ground. Okay. So it tells you something. So know where you live, know the environment and the weather. Okay. Anything else? We're out of time.
Yeah. It looks like there's just conversations going on about blow door tests and airtight. But I didn't see a question in there. So
okay, looks like everyone's talking.
Brady. Brady's in
Thanks,
there.
Brady. Brady's wonderful. He's been making comments. He's phenomenal.
Yeah,
he's in the Patreon group.
The Discord.
Discord group. Sorry, Discord.
If you're in the self-managed program, we have a Discord group. So
Yeah.
sometimes my emails, they're from my personal email for my work. Sometimes they go into spam. So check your spam, or if you didn't get it, just email me or go to the instructor.
All right. Until then, we'll see you guys next Thursday from 5 to 6 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. We will be here, and go to howtobuildyourownhome.com. Take the First Steps course. It's invaluable. It's going to really set you on the right course. And of course, the self-managed course is always there and helping many, many, many students across the country and even outside the country. Till then, you guys take care, and we'll see you next week.
Okay, see you later.
Bye.